So without further ado, I'd like to bring Libby Gill.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm delighted to be here. I want to add on to what Julie said as well as what Carrie said about value, because you've got a unique opportunity. You own this Lucy Hobbs project. And what I want to do is give you some ideas, and I'm not a dental expert, although I do have 4 implants and several root canals. We'll just establish that up front. But I've talked to a number of you, and you've given me some great ideas about how you maximize this unique opportunity. I want to share some of those with you and also give you a preview of what I'm going to be talking about. And I could tell you, women are hungry for this information. I have talked to women's leadership groups from Intel to Microsoft to Kellogg's to Genentech, literally from the Caribbean to Kuwait. And I know that the landscape of women in leadership in our country very much mirrors what's happening with women in dentistry. So my hope is to give you a little picture of what our daily lives are like. Not that you don't know that, because you see it in the field, but in terms of what it means to a group of women to get together with other smart professional women and really connect and share stories. And I'll start with a little study that will just paint a portrait for you. And it was a study that came out of the University of Washington last year, and it was really interesting. And among other findings about gender stereotypes, what they found was that if you type CEO into a search bar in Google or any of the other search engines, in Google Images, that is, here's what you see. Something that looks a little bit like this. And not just one page of this, but several. Anybody notice anything missing from this picture? Yeah, okay. Well, what you get is what we in my profession affectionately refer to as MOGs. That stands for middle-aged white guys. Nothing against you. I love you. I've got one of my own at home. However, and even though the study came out, this is still what it looks like on Google. And the first woman CEO, take a guess. Now, if you read this study, just save this, but the rest of you, take a guess who was the first female CEO that was featured on Google Images. Anybody? You're in the splash zone. I'll call on you. Carly Fiorina. Meg Whitman. Good guesses. Who else? Okay, we got, what do we say over here? Oprah. Okay, so we've got you great ideas. You had some good ones, and you're all wrong. Here was the first, I kid you not, and still is today, the first female CEO you will see in Google Images. Now, the funny thing is, this isn't even a picture from Mattel. This is from the satirical paper, The Onion, that was making fun of Mattel for telling young girls, you can be anything you want to be. Now, how backwards is that? It's funny. We have a sense of humor. We've heard all this stuff before. But here are some things not so funny. And just bear with me here. These are statistics about the landscape of women in the workplace. When we start out, women are, there's some parity. 53% of new hires are female. And they're just more of us. There are more of us graduating from college, more beginning to graduate from dental school. So 53%, we outnumber the guys when we start out together. Then that next bump up, that manager level or equivalent, there are different titles, of course, across the board, you can see it starting to dip. It's 37% of women make that manager cut. Then we start to drop off a little bit more at that VP, or the first sort of rung of leadership. It's just 26% of women. And then we really start to nosedive at the XCOM level, 15%. And then at the CEO level, that's where it really drops to about 2 to 3%. Now, we've got numbers to back up, which many women have known intuitively for many years in the workplace, about 20 years of data. And the sad thing is the picture hasn't changed very much. I've got a whole theory of that, and I think I agree with Anne-Marie Schlatter, who wrote a famous article in the Atlantic Monthly called Why Women Can't Have It All. whose take is really that we need more of a caring workplace. I get a sense that Benko is one of those that offers some flexibility and actually means it as opposed to penalizing you for using it. And that's a good thing. But not everybody has that flexibility. When I started at Universal, I was the Senior Vice President of Communications and Media Relations there. I was recruited to go there. And I came after a change of management. The company had been sold to Seagram's, the spirits company, which made no sense then, still doesn't today. But I came in with a new wave. And as head of communications for the TV group, I thought, well, let me get out there and communicate. That's what women do. That is one of those gender stereotypes. And I'm more of an individualist than a genderist. But some things do have a basis in biology or our socialization, and connecting seems to be one of them. So I found, to my surprise, and all of my polite overtures, nobody really cared about meeting with me. It didn't matter that I was the head of something. People just hate change. Have you ever noticed that before? So they were not too keen to meet with somebody from the new wave. So I just did what I thought seemed logical. I got in my little golf cart, which is how, when you work on a 500-acre studio lot, how you travel. And I went out and met with everybody I could find who touched the television group business. That was HR and accounting and the guys in the wood mill, the on-air talent, anybody that would say hello, meet face to face, that I could ask about their challenges, what they needed, how we could grow and succeed together. That's a natural sort of connecting a way that women like to work, and why these face-to-face meetings are so powerful. So you've got a great opportunity here. There's a Wharton school. I didn't make this up. Probably you all have witnessed in your personal life that men buy, women shop. That's actually the name of a Wharton school study. And they found very much that, partly because of our biological, the brain differences. Men tend to be more task-oriented when they go buy something, right? Search it online. If you have to go into a store, you go in, you find that thing, and you get the heck out. Women, most women, again, a generalization, but most women are more emotionally driven. They want some interaction before they purchase. They're much more educated about their purchases. And not than men, but in the past, where there's so much information, our consumers are very sophisticated and very demanding. But women tend to think about the end user. When we buy, and we spend 80 to 90% of our consumer budgets, I mean, women are the ones buying houses and cars and televisions and all of those things. We control the household budget. Now, I know that's different than the workplace, but the way we process and buy is similar. We're thinking about other people's needs. How is this going to affect the people that I'm buying for? So what women want in that interaction is some emotional connection. They want you to listen. They want you to talk. They want you to make eye contact. They want to trust you and feel like I've got a trusted advisor, because as Julie said, otherwise you're the same as anybody else. They want a connection. And the best way you can do that is get out of the sales process. Offer them something that takes your relationship into this sort of personal dimension, so that women really see, women in dentistry, and this is up and down from the front office staff to the dentists and the practice owners, they want to know that you actually care about the growth of their personal, professional growth and the well-being of their businesses and their staffs. And that's how you do it, is by making a connection. And I know you've got great, deep connections, but taking it to a different level. If this seems uncomfortable or too touchy-feely or a little weird, give it a try and see what happens. I always recommend, as an executive coach, I always recommend start with the easy get. Start with the person you feel most comfortable saying, hey, we do this event every year. Would you and your team like to come as my guest? Come along and come to this event. We've got something great to offer you. Women are influencers. We love to talk to other people about what we know, what we've discovered. Ever notice you're out with a couple of women and you say, oh, their shoes are great, where'd you buy them? Women, don't hesitate. Oh, they were marked down 3 times. You know, we want to share that. Aren't we smart? We share that sort of information. We share what's been good for us and what we care about. Not that men don't share, but there's a different vibration among women. You know what I'm talking about? And all things being equal, women will buy, and this is a lot of data to back this up, women will buy from companies that they perceive are doing good for the world, for the planet and people, while they are doing well. We want to buy from people who do something for the world. We're still moms and millennials, but women in general want to know that. You've got that as a differentiator. Lucy Hobbs' event is yours, out of whole cloth. You own that event. Some things based on the research that you've done and other research about women in dentistry is that we want to know, I'm not in the dental industry, but they want to know about ergonomics. Ask an opinion. Talk about my height, my hand size, all of those things. And better yet, they want input. They want to be asked questions about what they want and need. What's different for them than for everybody else? When you know them on a level that you know what they're all about, what makes them tick, and what gets them interested and engaged, then you can begin to be that trusted advisor. And I don't mean to talk down to you, because I heard how many of you have been in sales for a long time. You are doing a lot of things that are obviously working. What Julie and her team in Benko is providing you with is another opportunity that I know will work. And at lunch today, we were talking with the Dallas group. Where are you, Dallasites? Are you scattered all around? There you are. What can I do to help you? And we were talking about how do you make the invitation a little bit more personal and face-to-face? And I said, would it help if I do a video? I'll do a video, post it on YouTube. You can send it out as a newsletter, put it on your own Facebook page, send an email, anything I can do to help. I want this event to really be a success. Women want business resources. They want information. They want to be in leadership roles. I mean, wouldn't it be more advantageous to you, like Julie was saying, to help those women start their own practices as opposed to go into the corporate world? Well, how do you give them the information, the confidence, the brand building that they need in order to do that? They look to you for that. And the good thing is Benko has so much of that already wired. The information is there. And the Lucy Hobbs event, looking at it as an overall initiative, but also the event back here in June, offers so much of that, so much about leadership and brand and business building, that kind of connection that women really want, particularly with people in their own field who relate. Even though they may be competitors, and many of us sit and talk with our competitors, they still want to share information, best practices, all of the things that they're challenged by, and all of the things that are working well for them. And one of the things I want to talk about that I talk about across the country is what I think is the most overlooked and also the most essential ingredient of effective leadership. And I'll probably throw this out to them. What do they think is that one trait that makes them a success? And I'll just ask you, anybody have a characteristic, your pet trait, sum it up in a word or two, that you think separates a good leader from a great leader? And participation is key to leadership, by the way, just FYI. I'll bet you do, Larry, right? Is it dangerous to ask you the question? Yeah, okay.
Well, yeah, you want to know what
in one word, yeah. What makes a...
I can't even say hello in one.
Okay, yeah, okay. All right, who else has one? What's that? Trust? Yes, trust. I agree with you completely. Who else? Thank you for being brave and having one word. Who else? What's that? Authentic. Trust, authentic. Being an example, being a role model, being trusted, being authentic. Wow, Larry's got them all. Somebody else has to have another. Integrity. Okay, integrity, trust, being a role model, great example for other people. Last one, who else? Women, I don't hear any women speaking up, or you're not loud enough. What's that? Being humble. You don't hear that very often, but coming from Hollywood, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Listening, I heard also, right? Over here, see, I listened. I heard you say listen. There's one other thing. Having worked for 30 years managing, motivating people, there's one element that I truly believe is the one thing that's missing. And that element, this may sound surprising to you, you may think I'm crazy with this, I'm not the only one, by the way, is hope. Hope is actually derived from the Old English word hopian, which means to leap forward with expectation. And there is, this is not just my theory, there is actually a growing body of science from the medical and positive psychology communities called hope theory around this idea of hopefulness. What I've done is apply it to the workplace. And this theory, the hypothesis behind it is that it's comprised of two components. One, that change is possible, a fundamental belief that change is possible, right? You think about that and think, well, yeah, we all know that. But just for a second, think of that one person in your life who does not believe that change is possible. It is what it is. You can't fight City Hall. They'll never call themselves defenders of the status quo, but that's what they are, right? We all know someone like that. So hope is defined by a belief that change is possible and an expectation that what you do as an individual can create a positive outcome. So it's all about your action, controlling what you can control. It's not happiness, which is a great thing, but that's an overall satisfaction with life, or optimism, which is actually a sense that everything will turn out okay. It's generalized. Nothing wrong with being the half full rather than the half empty. Optimists in the room? I count myself as no optimist. Wow, come on. Optimist, yeah. The only problem being that the research will show you that pessimists are far more accurate and realistic in how they approach life. Nonetheless, I think hope is that thing that really drives change. It's the idea that belief drives behavior. If you want proof of that, just look at your calendar, look at your check stubs, look at how you spend your time, your energy, your money, your focus, your resources. That's belief-driving behavior. And when people understand that they are in control of those belief changes, then they can begin to shift gears, change their mindset, and change the way that they function within their businesses. So we're going to be talking about this. I'm also going to give everybody, and you're welcome to this, my ebook on my website, The Hope-Driven Leader, that really theorizes what hope is and how it impacts the workplace. You can just go to libbygill.com, and that's on the website there for you. So we're going to talk about this idea of hopefulness and what that means to the individual, what your vision is for the next year, how you're going to do everything you're already doing, but at the same time elevate your game to a new level. And I hope it will be very exciting for the women in the room who are not only going to leave with that very clear vision, but an action, accountability plan that's going to take that home with them so they can put it to work right away. And what high hope people do, this is according to the research, and this is beginning to be more and more studied. The difference between high and low hope people is high hope people, and I know many of you are among that, are people that feel like we self-direct the future. We focus and we make things happen. Is we set more goals. Well, first of all, we believe that we can attain them, so we set more goals. We set more ambitious goals. We have more success than low hope people in reaching those goals. And as a consequence, we have an overall greater satisfaction of life. We've got a sense of control over our own destiny. We make things happen because we're clear and focused on the future and the outcome. We control what we can control, we let go of the rest. And that's really the message in sort of a capsule that I hope to impart to the folks at Lucy Hobbs. And it's very much around the theme of hope and overcoming. I mean, you heard Lucy Hobbs. Imagine, I don't know why her story hasn't been made into a movie. Can you imagine Meryl Streep as Lucy Hobbs? You know, just overcoming all of those things that she had to do to become a dentist. Talk about belief and an expectation that you can make things happen. So the three pillars of the Lucy Hobbs Project: networking, innovation, and give back. And I talked to a lot of you, and I thought, well, wow, you fit right into those categories. Even at lunch today with the Dallas group, just sort of brainstorming, casual conversation, you all said, well, we could leverage this Lucy Hobbs event in some new ways. Who said, one of you said, well, most of my clients, I got a lot of male dentists. What if they offer it to their female employees and say, hey, show them some love. Here's a perk of the job. Why don't you all go? Take the day off. It's a day-long event. I mean, it's jam-packed with value. And I thought that was a great idea. Anybody want to claim credit? This is your golden opportunity. It was one of you at lunch today. And then another one of you said, well, we've got a group of younger women who are the front office staff, maybe some of the hygienists, who want to go as a team-building exercise. Thought that's another terrific idea, too. And then what I heard when I was talking to some of you a few weeks ago was networking. And Sharon Marshashik, back there? You had some great things to say about, I know you're just working Florida, right? The dental community, particularly Palm Beach State College, and really getting out there. And Sharon has made herself known as a connector. See, she's known as a networker. And Sharon, you told me that you embrace the women from the most junior, right out of dental school, all the way up to the most senior. And what happens as a consequence is that when someone leaves one practice or leaves a corporate company and goes somewhere else, they take Sharon and the Lucy Hobbs Project with them. She's created such bonds that she goes where they go. That is networking. People understand, oh, it's not just a thing for this company, it's for me. This has become personal. And then innovation, Teresa Liddell, back from the dead, yes? Back from the dead now, how nice for you. Innovation, what Teresa told me is, it's all done for us. There are so many innovative resources. There's so much at our fingertips. Yes, it takes a little time, a little effort, a little energy to put on an event, particularly if you've never thrown an event for women and it seems off or odd or new or scary. Just remind yourself, that is our biological hardwiring, our survival instinct saying, stay away from the new and different and dangerous. Take the familiar path where you won't be eaten by a predator. That's all it is. You can get past that. But what Teresa said is, there are resources for women about finance, specific to women, not talking down to them, but for their needs. There are things that are different about women in finance. We're going to outlive you, for one thing. More women than men end up in poverty in their senior years. True story. Women want to know these things. Information about ergonomics, about running a business, about hiring practices. So much, right, Teresa? Already there. It's a done for you. You just have to put it together, find out what people need and put it together. And Teresa, you're doing the monthly study group, yes? It had so many people, and I know it's starting small and growing, but interested in growth and self-promotion and how do I build a business, that she decided, look, I'm going to deal with the decision makers and the top dentists, practice owners, bring them together. We're going to bring in doctors who can talk about difficult cases. We're going to bring in hiring experts. Whatever they want to know, that's what I'm going to do. You're really like a coach taking on what they need at that time, and it will grow over time. Talk about an innovation. That's one right there. And then give back. Where's Robert Lim? I haven't met you yet. Where are you, Robert? I'm going to tell your story. Is he here? Oh, there you are, back there. Okay, well, I'm going to have a little fun with this. So if I get it wrong, you can talk about me behind my back and correct my facts. But basically, Robert told me that, like all of us, I have to sell too. He was trying to crack University of Nevada at Las Vegas, right? Trying to get in the door. We've all been there, trying to get in. Finally got the meeting. So he's there. He's at the table with the dean and the dean's staff, talking about Benko and all you've got to offer. And what happened? Nothing. Nothing was sparking. He was there doing his thing. Nothing had hit yet. So, and is this right, Robert? You're pretty much pitching it all out there, throwing lifesavers, hoping somebody will grab onto one. And he throws out the Lucy Hobbs Project. And what happens? The dean sits up. The dean's whole staff sits up and says, oh, Lucy Hobbs. Wanted to know more, wanted to know what Benko was doing, wanted to know if you'd come back for a second meeting. Now, they've got a Lucy Hobbs Project scholarship co-branded with the university and a 5-year commitment. How great is that? I mean, at this point, yay! That's pretty darn awesome, particularly from where you started, which was, nowhere. I could barely get in the door. Now you're in long-term business. It takes time, and it takes that give back that you're doing in terms of education and being at their career fairs and spending that face time with students. But I'll bet you that's going to pay off big time. That's really exciting, and what a great branding opportunity. So if we know all this and you've got all this wisdom right here at your disposal, why do we stay stuck? Why do we not maximize everything that's right here? Well, because we're human beings, and as I mentioned, we're sort of hardwired not to change, but we hang on to our own biases and our own baggage, our prejudices, right? That's just what we do. And I'll give you a little example of that right now. You ready for a little experiment? Just clasp your hands together. And you may have done, oh, you were already clasped. It's very prescient. You knew what we were going to do. Clasp your hands, just like you normally, yes, must clasp, like you normally would, right? Okay, now who's got there, I've got my left thumb on top. Raise your hand, raise it up high so we can see how we split. Left thumb on top, okay. Right thumb on top. Maybe 60-40, 70-30, it's usually about 50-50. You guys are a little weird, so it didn't quite strike 50-50, but close. All right, now try it the other way. And you'll just see that just feels a little odd, right? It just doesn't quite want to go there. So now we're going to up the ante. I want you to cross your arms, just like you normally would do it, just cross. And again, I'm going to add, oh, I have my right arm on top, even though I was a left thumb, so there's no correlation. And if you're jumping ahead, there's no left hand, right hand. Otherwise, we'd be 90% one way and 10%. So it's not hand dominance. So raise your hand if you've got your right hand on top. Let's see how this splits. Okay, now left hand on top. That's closer to 50-50. Now just put it back comfortably like you would and look over at your neighbor, see if they're doing it right. Okay, now you know where we're going next, right? Try it the other way, and yeah, right? See? Oh no, Larry's shaking. No, it's not going there. It just doesn't. Okay, now isn't that weird? It just doesn't want to go there. And here's what this means. Basically, nothing except this one thing. This was a preference that you chose when you were about 3 years old. And you're just never changing it. You're going to do it this way the rest of your life. But the interesting thing is it feels that right the other way to about 50% of you. And my point, obviously, is we got to get out of our own heads. Even as salespeople that are out there knocking on doors and making those calls all the time, you got to try something new if you want a new and different result. So this is my long way around of saying, get yourself and your clients down to the Lucy Hobbs event. And I'll wrap up with this last little story here. This is a picture I took. I'm really close to the healthcare community. My dad was a physician in Florida. I'm also from Florida. Grew up in Jacksonville. And my mom was a public healthcare worker. And so I grew up, eating in the hospital cafeteria, waiting in the waiting room for my dad, all those sorts of things. So this healthcare and as I mentioned, the implants and the 2 root canals, I spent a lot of time, quarterly dentist visits. But about 3 years ago, my son was diagnosed with an illness, or he wasn't diagnosed. We didn't know what was wrong. It was a neurological disorder, and was in and out of hospital about a dozen times before we got on top of what it was. And he was a junior in high school at the time, and any of you who are parents and have had kids heading in that direction, college years, or you've lived through it, you know junior year is critical. And despite the treatments and the medications and all this stuff, my son somehow aced his SATs and got into his first choice early decision school, and I was so happy. Happy that he was feeling better, that he was stable, and he said to me, "Mom, let's go on a little trip." And I said, sure, thinking, Seattle, San Francisco, and I said, where? And he said, Bhutan. And I said, where's that? And he said, well, China, India, it's over there. So we went. And we trekked around, well, I shouldn't say trek, there's a real trekker. We toured Bhutan in the Himalayan mountains. And on the last day, and I couldn't believe he was up to this after being ill for so long, but we decided to hike this mountain up to this monastery called the Tiger's Nest, because the story is a flying tiger swooped in and dropped it on this sheer cliff. And we started at 8,000 feet, but we climbed another 3,000 feet and 1,400 steps to get into the Tiger's Nest. And my workplace mantra, lift as you climb, had never been so meaningful to me before as when one kid who'd been sick for 2 years, and me, the mom who'd been worried sick all that time, made it to the top of that mountain. And we were there together. And now when I go out and talk with people, that's really my message, is to be creating that hope-driven culture in a small practice, in a huge corporation, and to take others on that journey with you, to lift as you climb. This is where you can find me. I've got something to share with you, and I'll share it so that you can send this to any of your Lucy Hobbs invitees. And this is an online career assessment that I designed, I created. You're taking a picture. I'll make sure you all know where to find it. It's careersuccessment.com. And it's really the gift of awareness. It'll show you what's working. It's really fun. It just takes about 3 minutes. What's working in my career? What do I want to work on next? What do I need to do to grow and develop? And then the idea is we want you at the Lucy Hobbs event with your clients. Bring them, send them, invite them, and we'll make it a day that they will never forget. I promise you that. Thank you very much.